The band is back together. Was the band not together the last 2 weeks? I missed you guys. Last Wednesday, you were not here.
I was not here. What was I doing last Wednesday?
You were giving a speech in Norfolk.
I was giving a speech at the Governor's Housing X conference.
I saw the pics on Facebook to prove it.
That's right.
You look sharp, too.
Yeah. Well, that was, actually, doing the show for 3+ years helped me, because the back end story is the staff gentleman, which is outstanding, Ian Baxter, who put together the PowerPoint presentation for me. When it got in there, the only 2 slides that actually worked, that you can actually see, was the first slide and the last slide.
Oh.
So I ad-libbed for about...
You're good at that.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll find out who everybody thinks in the room.
Before we start the show, at this speech, did you use this phrase? It's not a silver bullet, it's a silver buckshot.
I may or may not have done that.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure. Scott Morris and Keith Smith, guys, this is going to be entertaining. Judah Wickhauer's in the mix as well, with a microphone and a camera. I'm getting props from people in the community, like Jonas Smith, for the job he's been doing on the network. We can rock and roll, Judah, when you're ready. Guys, good Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. We're live on the I Love Seville network across Charlottesville, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world. It's the first day of June. On the first day of June here, 2022, a lot of topic and conversation matter for today's show, as all of us on this panel right now are looking at the big board, the screen, the TV screen in our studio in CNBC. We'll talk market, we'll talk housing, we'll talk inventory, we'll talk rates, we'll talk demand. We give some props to Keller Williams and Yes Realty Partners for presenting the show, and of course, our key presenter is Ross Mortgage and Scott Mortgage Morris.
Thank you.
On that note, let's go to the studio camera and welcome Scott and Keith to the program. Gentlemen, the band is back together. 2 weeks, I believe, off. I love it. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, but it's been a while since just the 3 of us, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think it's been longer than 2 weeks. I thought your lead off into the show was going to be allergies.
My allergies are horrendous. Scott, I think, is in my boat.
Yeah,
you seem
first
to be
time in my
spared.
life.
Yeah, tell me what you're experiencing.
Like swollen lymph nodes.
Yeah.
I've had like every kind of test you could imagine. I literally thought we're going on. This would be week 4, I guess, and I thought I was dying. I've had every kind of blood, whatever test imaginable.
You were going to get a CAT scan.
I'm scheduled for tomorrow.
You're going to get a CAT scan.
It's already scheduled. At this point, I'm kind of like, do I do it, do I not? Now my wife and my assistant are both like, you're going to do it.
Yeah, but okay, time out. What are they actually scanning for?
I don't know. I'm like worried.
That was a Keith joke.
That was a zing. I was trying to do a zing.
All right. I mean, yeah.
It's bad. It's bad out there. We've been told it's the oak pollen in 2022. It's certainly impacting me. But the distinguished gentleman has been spared. I mean, look at the distinguished gentleman.
I've been spared because several years ago I went through a 2 or 3 year. It's about 3 years worth of shots.
Oh.
Not those over there. These were in the arm.
Okay.
And I did that. And I'll tell you what, it worked great. But it was like once a week. I went for like a series of like six shots in each arm on that kind of thing.
I would take all the shots imaginable. Like the last month has been like miserable. It's crazy.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with Scott right there.
Well, the interesting thing about the I'm sorry to get off for the allergies thing, is it's also messing up people with COVID, right? So do I have COVID? Do I have allergies? It's kind of a...
I'm hesitant to even bring it up. We just cracked the threshold of COVID being around. What was the number we talked yesterday? Was it considered a different tier of category of COVID around here? And folks, like Keith are saying, are confused between allergy symptoms in COVID symptoms.
I can tell you right now, I think our region is considered high.
Okay, that's what it is.
Right, the
is
high.
That what it is?
The high. Okay, let's get the Alfred in here.
I don't know about our region. Are we considered
I'm pretty
high?
sure we are.
Yeah, I know we are.
I'm pretty sure we are.
I know we are because tomorrow's commission meeting is going to be in person.
Oh.
But we all need to wear masks and sit 6 feet away because apparently we've been rated as high.
See, this is why I was hesitant. Scott's got, he's
Let's
holding.
go, Scott.
I mean,
I won't be there. I'll be in a car, but that's
still,
a whole different
Are we
story.
still playing pandemic? I think everybody's learned that we're going to live with this, and anyways.
Judah's of that mindset. I'm of that mindset as well, but we're not going to go down that road today in the program. Scott, why don't you get us started with what we're going to do is turn into the first sizzle reel. It is the first Wednesday. It's the first day of June in 2022. Where would you like to begin, Scott Morris?
Well, I mean, if you look at what's been going on, I've seen a lot of pessimism and a lot of optimism from professional people who do this. And the bottom line is we're starting to see some demand turnover, but twofold, we've also seen, at least nationally, a 9% increase in inventory, which is the largest increase in a single month since the data has been recorded. So that's great news. At the same time, we're seeing a real slowdown in mortgage applications. I think it's twofold. I think it's inflation, it's job growth, which supposedly is still very strong, and ultimately, how that pertains to your average purchaser, again, as always, goes back to some pretty simple fundamentals. What are you doing that's affecting your personal purchase life? Are you having kids? Do you need to downsize? Are these decisions that you're making based on real life scenarios, not just the whim on moving into a house? And that's what truly drives activity. And if those are the things that are driving you out looking to purchase a home, if you're just getting into the market, you're burning money in rental. Getting into a home that you can build equity in right now is just as important as it was 3 years ago. And in fact, 3 years ago in 2018 was the last time that we saw mortgage applications at this marker. So we're really not in a bad place. We're just slower than what we have been.
So the whole
Great take.
So the whole month of the ending of last month in June and maybe into July, seeing how the market is going, we've kind of titled the shows "Oh Shift." I know.
I like it.
Super creative.
I like it.
Super creative. So "Oh Shift." So I'm kind of asking everybody who's in these seats here, from your perspective, I think you've kind of just did it a little bit, but what do you see mostly shifting in the market? What is the big shift that is currently, or is there one coming in your perspective?
So, I think I've said this, we're gonna go through some change. I think we're gonna see rates tick back up. I think they get a little bit higher, but I think we're essentially at the peak. So when I say a little bit higher, we're actually lower now than we were 45 days ago. But I think
that's temporary, though, right?
We're gonna see things come up just a little bit more. But what's going to happen is we're gonna see a bunch of volatility in the market related to the economy is great and can support all of the everything that's happening with what the Fed is doing, and then we're gonna see real things happen that are gonna. Then the other side is, oh my gosh, things are terrible, and we're definitely running into a recession. The truth is, we're probably running into a recession.
I think we're in one, but that's a whole.
Correct.
That's my.
But we just
I think when
printed it yet.
I think when we have this show a year from now, everybody's going to say this is when it started. You can't have. I mean, my God, I filled up my truck. It cost me $100, right? You can't have that kind of expense. We went into food shopping on Sunday, and half the shelves were bare, right? And they were staples. There was like the pasta shelf was bare. I went to go look. I mean, we're even making these decisions. I said, I'm going to pick up a T-bone and grill it up. I looked at the price. I said, "Yeah, we're having chicken."
What's the price of a T-bone?
It was like $30 for, it was, a pretty decent size.
That's
T-bone.
That's up there.
And I said, you know what? It's only mom and dad. We'll do chicken. But I had my mother and father over dinner.
You didn't take care of Pop?
Yeah, he likes chicken.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, tell me, trust me, if I would have showed up with a T-bone and mom and pop was over, I'd hear it. Oh my God, you spent $30.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you spent. Oh my God, you spent.
Ray Cadell, hello. Kerry Rock, hello. Kerry Rock's going to come on a Father's Day edition.
We're kind of Father's Day, but I want to give a shout out to Ray. I've been tracking. He did some pretty awesome shows over at the Homestead. I was following him on Facebook. So he pretty cool stuff that he's doing. Looks like he's back to rocking and rolling or swinging, whatever band music.
Big Ray and the Cool Cats.
There you go on that. So that was great to see that. I love, if Ray is watching, I would love Ray's perspective.
He is watching.
On thank you on what he's seeing and shifting, because Ray and myself, we've kind of been through this before. I'm just curious what he's seeing while he's thinking about that. We've been talking about, we touched a little bit into applications when we started this 4 or 5 months ago. I've been asking you, how's your applications week over week? How's it tracking? It's down, right?
It's down. Now, at the same time, the first-time buyer activity is where the most activity I've seen is. We're having
right now.
Right now.
Oh, great.
The biggest slowdown that we're seeing is in resale. That I'm personally seeing. I don't know I can't speak for everyone, but I can say that's.
What do you mean by resale?
Someone who's selling a house and purchasing another house.
Got it. Move up. We would call like a move up kind of thing. But you're seeing the first time increase. Let's talk about that, because
from a percentage standpoint, the number of applications coming in are from, I would say, from 40% up to 60%, 70%.
So what do you attribute that to?
Because
there's
rent's expensive, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So there's an article that I read this morning. The title is "The Shift Has Begun, but Rate Hikes Won't Be Housing's Achilles Heel." Right.
You sent us that link.
Yeah. So
that's Inman, right?
Inman. Yeah. So rate increases are not scaring off your first time home buyer,
because they don't make their decisions based on what's going on. They don't know. Their
they
decision
make it by
to
their monthly
purchase,
payment.
exactly. Their decision has, they might say, well, I see this in the news, but they still don't know how that affects them. Their goal is to get into a home.
Yeah. Well, I'm encouraged to hear that, right? Because my fear would be with the current shifting going on, is that the first-time home buyer would kind of step away. I know Ray's big into first-time home buyers, so
it works a lot with them. As do you.
I do. So we're not seeing a slowdown, right, on that end of it. But we're actually seeing an uptick in requests for listing appointments, which has really been happening over the last 30 to 60 days. So
what's that mean?
Well, what it means is, hey, please come take a look at my house. I think I want to list it.
Oh.
Please tell me what you think the home is worth. So these, what we call listing appointments.
So are they shopping? Are they shopping agents? Are they?
Oh yeah,
Or are they kicking the tires on their home? Both.
Well, that's a great question. Look, hopefully, people.
You guys have been around the block.
We've been around the block a little bit, so we get phone calls because of relationships on that end of it. But just like with mortgage, people shop, and that's great, and that's what one should do. I think it's mostly like the question I got asked at the ball game, at the UVA baseball game. Tell me what's going on in the market. Tell me what my house is worth. Tell me, are we increasing? Are we going backwards with value instead of going forward with value?
Well, we're not going backwards, that's for sure.
No, I don't. We've been talking about this forever. Double-digit appreciation is more than likely not going to happen next year. I'm sure Scott can chime in on that. But I think we're going to go back to a very consistent 3 to 6%. I just ran a 20-year spreadsheet for Albemarle County, single-family detached, no new construction. And I did it 20 years because it takes out the time of great unpleasantness. And it was roughly like 5.5% average for over 20 years, right? I think at the 10-year mark, it was somewhere in the 4%, 5%. So, that's the healthy appreciation year over year. Just like your interest rate, right? Aren't we kind of where we're supposed to be?
I think we're actually higher than we're going to end up being on an average. I think, you look out 12 months, we're in the upper 4s.
And what do you think that?
What's that?
Why do you think that?
Oh, because, I think
he's been consistent with that.
It's a couple fold. One, I think the institutional money is oversold because due to the inflation scare, which is we're coming back down from. I think they're going to overbuy through the recession news, and I think that the U.S. 10-year, which is was forecast to be at not to exceed. Gosh, how are we even going to get back to 2? And now we're at 2.8x, and I think we get up to probably chase 3 again, and then we come back down into like 2.5 range, and that I think puts mortgage rates on the high side at around 5%, and we settle in at about 4 3/4 this time next summer.
A lot of content coming in, a lot of questions.
Good.
So Ray Cadell answering Keith Smith's question. Diesel is approaching $6 a gallon. The Big Ray in the Cool Cats truck gets 8 miles per gallon. Just this coming weekend, 657 miles divided by 8 equals 82 gallons times $6 a gallon, $492 just for fuel. Plus, I cannot charge the client because he probably signed his contract with me a minimum a year ago, sometimes 3 years ago. Small business people like me are getting crushed by fuel, personnel costs, maintenance, hotels, airfare, and other charges.
I don't know, man. I tell you what, they cannot charge a client versus don't want to charge a client. You want to take a charter out to go deep sea fishing and you booked a year ago, they're going to tell you there may be a fuel surcharge depending on the day's rates.
Yeah, that's true, but he probably, with the contract that was done 3 years ago, did not have that language in there.
Because nobody thought about it.
Right, and a lot of custom home builders got burnt with that as well.
Yeah.
Well,
but you're right about that, Scott.
Well, that's because, prior to this inflationary pricing, builders, and we actually have a show coming up.
I promise you that boat charter didn't have that in there either when that.
So you're saying it's just, hey.
I'm not going out
Yeah.
unless you pay me this amount of money, right? It's cheaper for me to park my boat at the dock than get in there. I think for Ray it's a little bit different because he's got employee, a whole
100%.
And then the accounts for a long period of time.
But exactly right. Then there's the whole relationship cost on that end of it. But that kind of goes into this conversation of, maybe we need to start talking about the R word, right? To me, that sounds recessionary. To me, we've been talking about the cost of inflation on the overall economy and the housing industry. Jerry and I, everybody at this table, since beginning towards the tail end of last year,
Absolutely.
that this was our concern. And it's coming true. So at the end of the day, my suspicion is it's probably costing Ray to go out there and do that.
I don't think it's, and Ray, you don't have to answer this. I just think his margin has gotten tighter. I think he's still probably got some meat on the bone. I just think that meat is not as...
The point I'm trying to get at is everybody's margins are getting closer to zero.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Our guy that cuts our grass twice a week because they just doubled his rate to me. Now, it went from $50 to $100 per cut, right?
$100 a cut. That's a nice little price tag right
I've got
there.
2 acres, so.
Okay.
But Yona this morning said, you know what, let's go buy a tractor. I'll cut the grass.
Wow.
So, I know.
I tell you what, I've got somebody doing it because for me it's like 4 hours on a 61-inch zero turn, and that to me is, they show up 3 zero turns and knock it all out in 45 minutes. Like
what's that run here?
$300 a month.
Okay.
Super.
It's actually not bad.
It's not bad at all.
But everybody's starting to do that. You're starting to see creep its way into new construction. You're starting to see new construction, heavy hitters tightening their radius back up. It's not necessarily market. It's going, alrighty, well, I don't, the cost for me to travel for trucks and equipment and stuff like that to travel, I'm going to have to sneeze here. Strawberry.
Look at the lights. Look at the lights. That's the trick of the trade right there.
Working on it.
Strawberries and looking at the lights. Questions?
The light thing I've known about, the strawberry
Strawberry.
thing.
Look at
You
the
did not
lights.
know about the
The
strawberry?
strawberry thing is brand new to me.
I may have just made that up to get Keith to do that on the show again.
shut
No,
up.
I'm joking. I did
Stop.
not do
No,
that.
you didn't. Look at me and tell me.
That is an industry insider tip. This is for
I'm going to call Domingo up.
This is for Scott Morris from Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro.
Thank you, Kevin.
Explain, Scott, the financial reasoning that qualifies people for a $1,500 rent payment, but not a $1,000 mortgage payment.
Ooh, great question.
That's an actually super interesting question because I find that more often than not, I can qualify them for more than what they qualify for in rent. So the rent formula seems to be 3 times rental rate and income. So I just went through this with someone who works for me, and we came up with that she needed to make $50,000 a year to be at 54,000 a year to meet a $1,500 rent qualification.
So the real answer to that is on the rental side, there's no regulatory requirement.
Yeah, right.
It's very subjective. It's
Right.
what you determine and what I determine on that end of it. But I can tell you,
Rent is very much the Wild West.
So as opposed to let's say you don't have you've got very minimal debts. So your total debt to income 50 to 55%. So that means if you're making $3,000 a month, you qualify for a $1,700 mortgage as opposed to you don't qualify for a $1,500 rent.
Good knowledge there.
but it's subjective. It's what the landlord, unless it's through a rental company or something like they have some sort of not even a
The
regulatory.
3 times is the most common one.
But I'm also starting to see, because I was talking to Suzanne Real with Ally.
We should give her props.
Suzanne Real, we're Ally property manager, because our one rental we have is turning over, and we found a renter, and that we didn't. I think we bumped it like 2% just to cover basically CPI.
Very fair.
Yeah,
2% is very fair.
Yeah, our cash flow is good. We're trying to do the right thing and help out whoever we can help out on that end of it. But she was telling me the norm now is like 3 months security up front. So not only do you the qualification requirements or the finance requirements is within, but just think about it. I'm just going to do simple math. On a $2,000 per month rent, you got to write a $6,000 check.
Yeah, which is
down payment.
very close to down payment on a
That's
house.
exactly right. So thank you for leading me into this. So are you starting to see on some of your first-time home buyer products that we're still at like 0 to 3%, that kind of thing? Is that still holding, or are they charging? They're wanting more down payment, the lenders.
I have a conference call with Virginia Housing actually tomorrow, to where they want to apologize for the product. They are super challenged as far as what their abilities to do in this market environment are.
And why is that? Without throwing them under the bus.
I mean, their offer is less attractive than someone who's being able to make a payment of down payment and closing costs together.
So the question though is are you still seeing 0 to 3%, or are the lenders starting to want more money down payment?
No. 0 to 3% is still absolutely there. Some of the down payment assistant programs are where the struggle is.
Yeah.
Not in.
I can speak to that personally.
Yeah, not in your traditional, USDA, FHA, 3% conventional, whether it be Home Ready or Home Possible, those are all there's no change in what they're doing there. But,
I can speak that from the land trust perspective. If a buyer has the 3% down payment, they'll go through the sales funnel much faster than if they need down payment assistance. And talk about Wild West. The down payment assistant models, they're very different from A, B, C, D, and E. There's really no conformity to it on that end of it. So, generally they'll go through the sales funnel. And I was just curious if that 0 to 3% is still holding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
That has not moved at all.
Neil Williamson, for both of you guys, millennials, unlike us graybeards,
What are you pointing at me for?
Keith,
I don't have a beard. I got a mustache.
have not seen 4% plus interest rates. An optimist would call this an educational opportunity for people.
So you say millennials weren't purchasing homes in 2018?
Well, millennials also saw it during the pandemic.
So 39.
But you also have to put a 2018 what the age was. So right now,
So
47.
a millennial's like
That would still
39.
count as a millennial.
A geriatric millennial is
Is 40.
30. Yeah, it's 39
so
years
hold the
old.
time out. Gray beard, geriatric.
Yeah, there's a geriatric
I'm sitting
millennial.
here. I'm
Yeah.
sitting here.
He's right. That's what they're called. The older
Geriatric
millennials.
millennial.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the nomenclature for a 39-year-old or 40-year-old millennial.
He's right. He's exactly right.
Yeah, I got gray beard and
So 2018, the rates were for
5%.
yeah. And they were buying, and I didn't bring the stats with us. We can go back because I actually have a year-over-year appreciation. I'm doing it. I'm building this 20-year spreadsheet. I did Charlottesville, Albemarle Green. I'm working on Fluvanna and Nelson County to see what it was and comparing it to what the interest rate was at that particular point in time. The difference is the volume of sales, right? The volume of sales were a lot less, but they were still selling homes, and they were selling homes at a pretty decent clip on that end of it. So, gray beard, what was the rest of his question?
geriatric millennial, gray beard.
Gray beard. I got to write these things down. I'm learning from here.
Ray wants to point out to everybody that's listening that the first-time home buyer has significant inventory issues, and that's causing problems for people looking to move up the ladder as well. So that's important to emphasize. We still have significant housing affordability issues, especially with the first-time home buyer in today's market. In fact, in markets everywhere.
Yeah, so housing affordability, as you know, we've switched that term from affordable
I like that
housing to housing affordability. That's going to be a great topic for Friday's show with Neil and Sean on here to talk about that. But the reality of it is more needs to be built.
And Quentin Beckham.
Is
Keith
sitting.
Smith is going to be making a jaunt up the eastern seaboard.
Yep, going to go see the grandkids, and we didn't get a chance to celebrate their birthday in December because both of them had COVID. So we're going to go up there and hang out and do birthday cake stuff.
That is awesome. Speaking of birthdays, if he is watching or any of the people who know him, reach out to Barry Morse and tell him happy birthday.
Barry Morris, happy birthday. Is that your father?
That is my dad, yeah.
Papa Morris, happy birthday to you.
How old's Dad today?
73.
Oh, it's a young man.
Good for Dad.
I like that. Keith Smith, this question's come on the feed for you from Grayson. Has inventory opened up in the footprint you cover, Keith?
The answer is no. My dyslexia kicked in yesterday when I was looking at it, and I inverted the new on and the pending. Yesterday it was about 118 to around 80. So 80 new homes came in the footprint, 118. I got all excited because I inverted the two numbers and thought that.
Who pointed that out to you? Was it Greg Slater?
No, it was Emily Funk.
Okay. We love Emily Funk.
I said, Emily, this is great news. And she said, dummy, you're reading the numbers backwards.
Emily Funk, we appreciate you.
On that stuff. So, hey, I got to ask, do you mind if I jump in with a question?
Mm-hmm.
So, I got an email, been getting these consistent emails, which is kind of scaring me. We get them all the time. Non-conforming, is that starting to make a comeback?
So the big non-conforming product is an investment product called a DSCR loan, which is a debt service recovery loan. And that's probably what you're seeing the most activity with, and that's basically like a stated income or a projected income on projected rental with a 30% down payment is your typical what that looks like. The rates are tough right now. You're probably 8% on a lot of that. I say the rates are tough. If the cash flow makes sense, then it's probably still not a bad. It's not the worst thing in the world. However, it is what I foresee having the government thought second homes, especially second homes being treated as investment properties, had the potential for default. That's why they put the LLPAs, the loan level price adjustments, in place early this year. And I think that this DSCR product is probably walks the line with those on if things do have hard times, that's where some of the hard times will be felt.
I mean, to Ray's point, we're talking about loan product and what first-time home buyers can buy. Then there's like, okay, what am I going to buy, right? So, we've been talking about this quite regularly for seems like a couple of 3 years at this point. So, seems like non-conforming is creeping back in a little bit, which is frankly scaring the hell out of me.
Yep.
The ARMs initially were scaring me.
No, ARM's legit. Scott's explained the ARM.
ARM's legit, but the problem is short-term. Some of them don't. You still struggle to find good rates with them.
I was about to say,
because short-term debt right now is looked at as so scary that the 3-year ARM is not probably as attractive as it could be.
Yeah. So the 7 and 10s is what I was looking.
Yeah.
And the rates are not that different than a 30-year, right? It's a quarter point, a half point. That sound about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
That may sound a lot in the conversation, but when you do the math and break it down, it's really not that much more per month.
Considering how long, like the chances of you most likely, I think a lot of these loans will be refinanced in 24 months that are being issued now. I think we're going to see
because you say rates are going to go down.
I think rates are going to, I think they're going to come down.
So you're thinking these 3 years are going to get refinanced? 3-year ARMs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but at the adjustment period for the people who can and the people who can't, I think are going to be in maybe a not fun place. But if you're in for, look at your total loan cost. All of that matters. I don't recommend to a lot of people like paying discount points if they don't have to, if they're in a good credit place, because you're likely going to refinance that loan before you actually get the money back out of the lower payment.
So to go back to what am I going to...
Good advice.
There's never bad advice that comes out of that side.
Yeah, good advice.
Side of the table.
Maybe outside of the work environment there is.
Like I said, during the show.
Okay.
Life choice is a different story.
Conversation.
Actually, you did pretty good with your life choice.
Oh yeah, he's got a beautiful wife, 3 great kids.
Thank you.
Got a farmette in Culpeper.
How many chickens we got left? Did we?
Well, we're back up. We're in the 20s with chickens again.
Oh, good night.
Yeah.
Good. I had that on my notes. Talk about chickens.
Yeah.
The Morris children are happy then, huh?
Yeah, the kids, they've got their birds to throw grain at, and they think it's a blast.
Ray for Keith. Conversation on appraisal problems, please. I'm living in that world right now. Can Scott and Keith speak about appraisals and the temperature or what they're seeing on appraisals locally?
So, I'd like to know. I'd love to hear a little more like hint specific towards the problems he's seeing. The problems that I am seeing, and this is in Richmond, Charlottesville, and Northern Virginia, are properties that were. When I reach out to the agent when a problem has shown up and say, hey, if this is bad, can you send me the comps? And I don't get a lot of responses. So these are properties that, for instance, in one of the conversations I had recently was where none of the comps supported. Like at the last few, I think Carrie talked about it, where it's the last 2 in a subdivision, and they're priced $20,000 higher than everything else that has sold comparably to it. It's like, well, yeah, you've got a problem. And
the problem is what?
The properties they were just brought to market
Too high.
Too high.
Yeah.
So, so Woody Fincham with the Fincham Appraisals is one of our sponsors, and actually
Fincham and Associates.
Fincham and Associates. Thank you very much. And if you can tag Woody, because he'll probably chime in and help.
Let me clarify. They were brought to the market too high for them to appraise.
No, and that's
Not that there's not activity, and there's not that there's interest, and I think that the appraisal process is in some ways archaic and has its own set of problems. But if you have to play the game, then you have to understand that everybody should be having a conversation in the beginning that says, "Look, this is where we want to be." But we understand that this may not come in.
So again, the title of O Shift, right? So things are shifting right now. Pricing is shifting. It's not exploding, right? It's just shifting. And to attack or to question Grayson's comment about how the footprint is looking, I've been tracking these price changes very closely, and they're increasing. So what's happening here is the sellers are between 30 to 60 days, I think, behind where the reality is today on the market. So they're pricing their homes.
At least.
They're pricing their homes based on a 30 to 60 day thinking on it, and you're starting to see when the home's on the market for 4 or 5 days or 2 weeks or something like that, they're making these price adjustments instead of kind of pricing it, in my opinion, right. Pricing always matters. We're starting to see a couple, and maybe this is what Ray's talking about.
This is specifically what he's talking about. Valuation, perfect condition. Appraiser would not go out of the neighborhood, even though I sent him 8 comps within 2 miles.
Yeah. So the follow-up question I would have is this a local appraiser from out of the area?
Woody Fincham's watching the program
Hey,
right
Woody.
now. We love you, Woody.
Woody for sure can chime in. He's an expert on appraisals, but on the sales side, we've been kind of listing heavy for quite a while. On that, we kind of intentionally done that because that's where the market is at the moment. But we're starting to see appraisals come in like 5,000 under contract price, 10,000. So I think what's happening is the appraisers are kind of catching up to what the real world market is at this given moment on it. As far as an appraiser not taking Ray's comps and all that stuff, we had this conversation with Woody. It's just amazing how some will take it and some won't, and I don't quite understand the rationale why one wouldn't take that information.
The follow-up question has been about gap coverage with the appraisals. Are you still seeing them now?
No, that's what I was saying. So we went back and negotiated these couple of ones that are under, because the reality of it is if the buyer goes away, this is kind of the market. So we're going to have to deal with. We're going to either have to adjust the sales price or the list price a little bit, and the ones that we're missing are really close. They're a few $1,000s one way or the other. To me, in today's market, if you can catch it within a few $1,000s, that's pretty darn good. As fast as the market is moving.
Are you seeing multiple offer situations with the frequency you saw last year, Keith?
No. There's multiple offers. Look, and Scott can jump in because he's seeing this from the from the buyers.
The offers seem to be they are more dialed in. I see maybe fewer escalation and more highest and best with. Yeah. Very this is how we want to target this offer. So they're very strong, good offers, but you're seeing less of the chaos.
So this is why I'm titling this series
O
Shift, because what's happening, the market is balancing itself out a little bit or shifting itself out a little bit, and the buyers are starting to understand that.
I had an agent call me this Monday or last Monday, because this Monday was Memorial Day, and just kind of hey, what's going on? Hey man, how's it going? I'm like, hey, pretty good. What's going on, dude? So we had a listing this weekend and didn't have an offer. And it's wow. Yeah, it's like, oh, well.
How long has that agent been in the business?
He's been in for a while. His wife's been in for a lot longer.
Okay.
But either way, it's in an area where it was kind of like they were just kind of anything going on we need to know about? Like, just, they found it.
Apparently, they don't watch Real Talk.
Yeah, I know. They're in a little different market.
So it's 100% right. The buyers and sellers are kind of balancing themselves out a little bit. What I'm seeing as far as multiple offers or not multiple offers, and again, those of us who've been around for a while, this is not a normal occurrence, right? I remember I would show a house for Jerry, or Ray would show one of our houses, and we'd pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Ray, how's it going? We would, where's our offer?" Right? Kind of thing on that end of it. But the reality of it is, it's also going to be very location driven, right? We're back to the fives, right? I talk about all the time: location, prices, features, condition, and timing. And the locations have these micro locations, and that's where Woody and these appraisers really have to drill in, because it's a micro location on that. So you can be from one side of the street to the other side of the street, and the value could be different on that end of it, and the multiple offers versus no offers on that end of it.
You got a question from a colleague in the business, Scott Morris. Are you seeing 15 years with rates going up?
So some, but the 15s that we've done have been for clients who were selling and purchasing, and for investors. That's where I've seen the most in the last 2 months.
What's good credit 15 at?
Today, I want to say just under 4.75.
It's not bad. That's really good.
So speaking of which, is the credit scores floating around a little bit? Are they raising? Are they lowering? Are they staying kind of stable?
I mean, I don't know. That's a difficult question. I think
Do you have geographical territories where the credit scores are going to be better?
Yes.
Yeah. Got it. And the apps that come in from these zip codes are going to be more likely to be approved than other zip codes?
Yes. And it depends on... Depending on the volume, sometimes, so the average for me is about 1 pre-approval per 3 applications, and you look at, and that's with every area combined. So there's areas in Petersburg or outside of Charlottesville and Fredericksburg that I probably have. It's probably 5 to 1, and then there's areas where it's 2 to 1.
What do you think about that?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's actually, as you were saying, I thought that was a pretty good success rate. I mean, close rate or conversion rate, whatever terminology you guys use.
It's fantastic.
That's actually pretty awesome.
So
on that end of it.
And so you get that, and then the challenge has been, so typically for two pre-approvals, one will turn into a contract. That's where over the past few months things have been more challenging, is getting some of these first-time buyers, depending on their circumstances, under contract. But I think that as we shift, you're going to see we'll normalize back into those numbers.
So Carrie's got a question for you. Carrie Rocks, watching the entire show. Is that not biased approval?
I mean, it's biased probably based on the agents that are referring. I'm just giving you an example of what I see.
Ask him to explain that question, because I didn't quite understand that.
Give us some more insight, Carrie, into that question that you have. I think what he's referencing is the knowing that certain applications from certain zip codes are likely to get more approved faster than others.
No, that has absolutely nothing to do with it. It is
because we're going down a slippery slope.
Yeah, I know.
It is 1,000%. The referral source dictates a lot of times the quality of lead, and the people who I work with in some of those areas, some of their clients have more income issues. So, if you work
so you're
in
talking
an area,
about, I'm referring
dude,
to you.
If I get 5 Uber drivers and somebody who's doing Instacart for their workload, you've got to understand their challenge isn't just their income, but it's also they're considered self-employed. So how their taxes are viewed, how much income they write off through that. So this has nothing to do with
approval bias.
Approval bias.
Yeah,
this has to do with a gig market economy and how they are forced into a tax representation, and then how they have to fit that into mortgage pre-approval.
That's good. That's a good take. And to Scott's point, COVID has created a lot of more, considerably more gig workers and people looking to get out of the 9 to 5.
I mean, I've been struggling with this for 37, 36 years, right? I've always been self-employed, and I never just understood it's so much harder for me as a self-employed person to get a mortgage and it's almost like
it is hardest when you do not like, now none of us like giving the government money, but if you truly do not want to give the government money, it's going to be more difficult.
It's a double-edged sword.
You may have an accountant who
Very
writes
aggressive.
down $50,000 in deductions in order to save you $5,000, but then all of a sudden you need that $50,000 to qualify for a mortgage.
Yeah, and also how you pay yourself as someone who's self-employed.
All of these things matter.
Well, that's just amazing.
So do you do? And if I'm going too far, please tell me. Do you do for
No,
pay?
because our chemistry is working. Because I was just going to go there.
For YRP, how are you doing pay? Is it are you an employee of YRP?
No.
Are you doing partner draws?
No. So actually, it's a great question. So each one of us are contract employees or independent contractors. That's our word I'm looking for YRP. Yona and I have our own Yes Business Management. We've always done our business in an LLC. It's amazing how many conversations I have with real estate agents that they do it on their personal name. But when Yona and I receive a commission check, we actually receive a payroll check from our own company. So YRP pays Business Management. Yes Business Management pays us. So we actually we do our own payroll taxes on that stuff. Then there's draws and all that kind of great stuff, which is a whole different animal on that. But we learned that almost 30 years ago, that we actually pay ourselves as if we're employees of a company.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, to get around.
Most real estate agents don't do that.
Well, I know, and then they have the issue that he's talking about.
Well, then they have the issue he's talking about. Then they have the issue of
doing it how you do it helps keep that issue, puts it more on the back burner.
Well, what happens at the end of the year? They go, "Oh my God, I owe the government 20 grand."
Right.
And I don't have 20 grand on that end of it. So
pay the tax man.
Yeah, so we pay our own tax. But even doing that, it's hard for independent contractors or business owners. The process is just much more laborious.
Well, the gig economy worker, the frontline worker, F&B worker, has never had more of a difficult time to buy a home than right now. And I know you disagree with that.
I totally disagree.
Because of the 18% rates.
It wasn't the 18%
There was more inventory then, though. There was more inventory.
No, there wasn't.
Is that true?
That's absolutely true. We had the only reason I had inventory is because I had a lot and I built it. Built the end of it, but there wasn't a lot of inventory to go ahead and buy on that end of it. But just to talk about VA, how difficult it was. VA was so screwed up back in those days, I couldn't use my VA certificate. I just couldn't use it on that end of it. Now, VA is stellar.
It is the absolute best mortgage product available to anyone who qualifies for it and wants to use that ability. There's not a better product. There's a mortgage insurance that offers them zero down if they've
and the process is harder to go through, right, than a normal loan process, right? It's a little bit more, from a.
Is that true?
Well, so let me.
I would disagree with that. I'm just trying to figure
out. Let me try to get it out a little bit better. So what I'm talking about, so one of my pet peeves is fair housing and some sellers disregarding VA loans.
It's a big time pet peeve of yours.
It's a big time pet peeve of mine as a veteran. But my point is if I'm a seller and you give an offer with a VA pre-approval, and that has a little bit more strength than a normal. That process for you to generate a pre-approval of a VA takes a little bit more work.
Carrie says I used a VA loan for my first home in 2006, and it was the easiest process ever.
I could tell you 2018, it was I won't use this word.
So
thank you.
Do I? Yes. But this goes back to your online lenders, all of these things. So one of the things when it comes into like, hey, Scott, I need you to save this bad thing happened. Very often the bad thing was someone thought that they had a certificate of eligibility because maybe they're a reservist, they're a National Guardsman, but they've only got so much service time, and no one actually did the work to find out if they actually had the certificate of eligibility, or if they didn't, had they contacted the VA to actually get the VA to process one, if they truly did qualify. So you get somebody that says, hey, I'm a veteran, and someone issues a pre-approval for a VA loan, they've only got closing cost money, they don't have down payment, and now you've got a borrower who isn't truly pre-approved. So yes, the first thing that any lender should be doing is pulling a certificate of eligibility along with application and guiding that borrower and educating the realtor to let them know, hey, these are all the things that we've done to protect this transaction and protect your borrower and make sure that this goes well.
And that's the point I was trying to make.
Yes. Do I? Yes. Does everyone? No.
Got it. Well, again, just to wrap a bow around this, I can tell you in 2018, it was horrible. And, so much so, I never really ever wanted to use it again. Now, I think the VA's changed a lot, because now I'm on the VA medical system, which I fought for years because of my experience of trying to get a VA loan in 1987, or 88 actually, 1988. In that end of it. So I'm glad to hear that it's better, and it's, the veterans and the VAs to me is a deep, it means a lot to me.
Let's hear from Woody Fincham.
Hey, Woody.
Fincham and Associates. We love Woody Fincham and Fincham and Associates here on Real Talk with Keith Smith. We were just brought in to do a review on a Virginia deal, Woody said. Custom home in Belmont. Appraiser did a really poor job. It was indicated in the report that the market was increasing. However, there were sales in the report that were 6 months old and not adjusted forward for time. The report also stated that the home was an over-improvement in the neighborhood where there are several spot builds of similar homes and more underway. But things are demonstrably wrong. Unfortunate situation for a veteran borrower. What do you pitch him right there?
So this is for a veteran. I would love if whoever is watching to see if we'd love to get involved and see if there's a reconsideration of value through the VA, especially given all the points that Woody just made. And that's where we can actually, if the appraisal was not done in the best way, which is what he described, we can circumvent the appraiser, go directly to the VA with an outline of these are the reasons that it actually meets this value and get that value applied.
So a question for Woody, what's the recourse for the veteran, and what's the recourse? So what I'm hearing is
the recourse is the appraisal either, what I'm talking about needs to be done either through that lender or have it transferred to another mortgage company where you truly have an advocate who understands how the system works and put those things together with help of the agents in order to get that reconsideration of value. That's the recourse.
So the path I was going on, and it's for a show when Woody's here so he can actually respond to it. But what's like on our side of it, if there was some ethics or fair housing crossed, there's paths that a buyer or a seller can take on that. I'm just curious if there's any paths that, sounds like we had an appraiser who really didn't do his job.
So this is why I have such a problem with the whole appraisal process. So
you got a couple of appraisers watching right now.
That's fine. When you get into something that is so opinion-based, that they could just do their job differently than someone else does their job.
But we've got that everywhere. You've got that. I know I've got it in my field. I'm pretty sure you have it in your field. Nobody does anything like Jerry does. So
Thank you.
Nobody
Thank you for acknowledging
Nobody has it.
Did you hear that, Mrs. Miller?
Well, that's because of Judah, but that's a whole different story.
Thank you. Did you hear that, Mrs. Miller?
That's a whole different story.
So you'll even get appraisers that can openly admit, like, hey, yeah, this isn't a good appraisal, but there's nothing technically wrong with it. So while I disagree with what he did, I would have done it this way. That's a problem. That is that.
Yeah, but it sounds.
Ray says we have serious appraisal issues in the area. Think about this: if an appraiser never went out of a neighborhood for comps, how could prices ever rise unless it was a cash deal comp?
Again, this is where this is where Woody needs to be here to really chime in live, and we'll get Woody in there to go ahead and do that. But on our end of it, this may be unpopular, but on our end of it, we brought this up on some shows. One of our ethics is you're supposed to be an expert in your region, right?
But that's not being practiced. We know that's not being practiced right now.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is.
And that's going to get worse as inventory tightens and things get more competitive.
Without a doubt.
And that's happening.
It is happening on that end of it, but the question the step is somebody has to say something.
Enforce it.
Say something.
But
right?
that's also not happening.
And that's also not happening.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious I know what my path is on my end, on our end of it. I just don't know if there's a path on the appraisal end that, if somebody is really unethically did something, what's the path?
But that's my point. It's not an unethical thing. It's truly about someone's opinion can differ from someone else's.
It's how they interpret.
That's how they interpret value, which is
story.
a garbage way to go about the process.
I see what he's saying there.
But I tell the story all the time. We had this.
That's human error. Or human interpretation. I'll give you that.
Interpretation.
Yeah. Your interpretation is that's the right volume of water to drink. My interpretation is this was the right volume.
And you can see why there's gray area or delta with what they do.
Well, all I know for an absolute, because I lived through it, is what the system we have now is 1,000% better than it was in 2004, 2005, 2006. Does it need to be improved a little bit? I'm sure Woody can share his thoughts.
He's sharing his thoughts, and I'm tagging Scott, Keith, and Ray on this. There's a pretty dynamic conversation going on in the message in the comment section. Woody says apparently Tidewater was done and an ROV that didn't go anywhere, so the borrower reached out for a private review because it was not sitting well with the borrower. Not sure how it's going to shake out yet. I believe they are using the review to appeal to the VA.
So if they're using the ROV, and if the ROV,
so let's define
the
ROV.
Reconsideration of value. So when we say what are the recourse for the borrower, the recourse for the borrower is the reconsideration of value. If the report was not well written or not well documented to the VA from the LO and from insight from the agents, or then very likely that the ROV didn't go anywhere, which again goes back to if you've got someone who doesn't understand how the process works or how they're not effective with the process, then see if you can get the appraisal transferred to another lender, have that lender who knows how the system works go after the problem.
Or just start all over again. Right? I mean, there's
how
does that impact the time?
You can't start over so the VA appraisal is going to stick to the property. You can't just start all over again. You have to get whoever.
Is that exclusive to VA?
FHA does that as well.
Yeah, okay.
The appraisal sticks to the property?
But
for 6 months.
Good Lord.
So
that's a big deal.
Yeah, but it's on VA and FHA.
Correct.
Right, so regular conventional.
Now,
right.
Regular conventional, you can go get a new appraisal,
so that's important to get this thing right.
Yeah,
because
that's extremely important.
So it's kind of like a rezoning, right? If you fail a rezoning,
well, it's like what you were saying, where you have clients and they find something like mold and they don't want to remediate it. And if they want to remediate it, you call Interstate Service Company. There's a segue for you. ISC, a home best friend. Interstate Service Company. And then you have to have the conversation with the client saying, you're going to remediate it or we're going to disclose it.
Well, we have to disclose it.
You have to disclose it.
I'm now aware of a defect. I have to disclose it.
You have to disclose it, right. Right. So, I mean, it's a similar type of situation where if the appraisal...
Well, that's a little easier to deal with than
well, you have to remediate it.
Correct.
Because you're saying you're going to put it in the notes. Is what you're saying,
well,
right?
we have to disclose it.
Yeah.
You're either going to fix it or disclose it. It's just the way it is.
There's literally a conversation going down here in the comment section, and we're relaying the conversation to the panel. Yeah, I love it when it happens too. If a buyer and a seller agree on a price, if it's an arm's length transaction, if neither side is in a distressed situation, isn't that the very definition of fair market value? And should not that take top consideration?
This is Ray's comment.
Yeah.
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 Oh, hey, that's what I've said. That's why I said it's an archaic process. It's got some flaws, but at the same time, we let the government stepped in and put some rules in place to prevent.
And
They
I get
put rules
that.
in place. So
To
again,
prevent shadiness.
if you're going to play the game. If you're gonna play the game,
know the rules.
Then you got to operate inside the rules. I mean, it's not. I don't like it all the time, but that's the way it is.
I learned something today. I did not know that you can't, that VA and FHA attaches to, I should have
That's a
known.
huge deal.
I should have known that. I really should have known that, but for whatever reason, I didn't. And
So how does it stay attached to the property?
it's in the system.
So
Is that how?
yeah,
in the
it's
system.
recorded. So if another appraiser goes in,
They see it.
They see
Yeah.
it.
Where's it recorded? And what?
That's a Woody Fincham question. I know that it exists. I know
Okay.
that the problem exists, or that the situation exists.
I mean, there has to be some sort of.
But there's other rules in place. So like for an FHA purchase, if the appraisal has increased 100% within 180 days, it requires a second appraisal to confirm the new value. So if a flipper goes in and
Got it.
rehabs
Proves
the
the property.
property, they buy it for 200, sell it for 400, it's going to need a second appraisal to confirm that it meets the new value. So anything that the government has attached itself to in ensuring value, because that's what they do, or guaranteed. So it's insured through FHA, it's guaranteed through the VA, meaning that if the borrower were to default, they're going to pay back the lender this X amount of money. So the government has put these things in place to protect its money, essentially.
Dude, you're dropping knowledge today.
Well, that plus protect the veteran, right? And I mean, I think that's the.
Well, I mean, so attached to the property has less to do with the veteran than the government.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's the same reason why when I joined the duty that I did, I had to sign 3 separate documents that I wouldn't get married, right?
Yeah.
One with the State Department, one with the CIA, and one
But
with
you
the
broke
Marine
that. Those
I
promises.
did not get married until I did not
Until
get-
you were out?
Until I was out. Yeah, I got married literally on the last day of my service. I did not do that.
He says this, dude. And
That was all about money, though.
He's
not
in a
about
pickle.
school.
I'm living all of this right now.
Who's he?
Ray.
Yeah.
I'm living all of this right now. It killed my deal. The value the appraiser assigned was not even close to the agreed sales price. It's a VA deal, so now I have to advise my sellers not to take another VA deal. How does that help the veteran?
Well, it's not a help to veteran. It's also how does that not cross fair housing,
That's
right?
what
Because
I'm- that's what I'm-
you're not supposed to reject something because of source of funds, right? On that end of it, but it's a true, it's a reality what you're dealing with, because now if you've got 2 offers, sellers, he has 2 offers side by side. One's VA and one's
So you don't. So
conventional.
whoa, you don't. Here's the difference. So at this point, what you have to do is you disclose to a VA offer that we already have a VA appraisal that we fought and we didn't get anywhere with. Here's the value. Does your borrower have $50,000 to pay over that? If the answer is no, we're not discriminating against their financing. They're just not qualified to purchase this
That's exactly
property
right.
due to the appraisal.
So the buyer has to bring whatever the cash difference
is.
in that, and I suspect, I know Ray well enough to know this, that the delta is pretty large.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have negotiated it.
Well,
Down.
Woody, to Scott's comment, the appraisal process is a scientific approach that ends in an opinion. Data is used to support that opinion. While it is an opinion, it should be reached with supporting data. Unfortunately, some appraisers hide behind ambiguities. I read appraisal reports all the time as an informed professional and can discern how some appraisers get to their opinion. And Ray said if it was close, I would have made the deal like you described.
Yeah. I mean, so that tells me the delta
Is massive.
Is massive, and Ray is we talk about lessons from the legends.
He's a pro.
He's a legend on that end of it, so I'm confident that he did his pricing right on the market value on it, and we now just got a goofy appraisal. But the problem is the seller now is kind of hamstrung for 6 months right? He can't accept
There
unless.
still could be some outs there, depending.
You're saying call Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris over there.
I'm saying that.
Well, Ray can't do that because he's representing the seller.
Right.
Right. So the buyer.
It would have to be the buyer to call
The
Scott.
buyer's agent would have to reach out and call Scott on that end of it.
You
I'm
should
sure
suggest that, Ray. Ray suggests
could
that.
surely suggest that,
Yeah.
but at that point, but this is
Especially if the delta is that big, it's
something's really wrong.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that Ray got it awfully close.
Multiple offers in 3 days, by the way. He took the VA deal because he liked veterans.
hey.
Respect for
Yeah.
taking the deal.
But as representing his seller, I'm sure he's going to terminate the contract, put it back on the market, and his seller will do fine. He'll find another.
We learned something today.
I learned something today.
Yeah.
Definitely. I did not know about that 6 months sticking to the land, and that is that's interesting.
Substantial. That's a completely different market, 6 months.
6 months from now, clearly, it also
Yeah.
could be better too, right? It could, depending on which hat you're wearing at that
and there's
particular time.
So there's some other things that need to happen for effective dates being updated, and you can sometimes get some adjustments depending on closed sales with new effective dates on a transferred appraisal, especially if it's transferred from one borrower to a next, and we've got significant events that have happened in between. But again, some of that's based on opinion as well.
Yeah, well, so back on the opinion thing, just to wrap a bow around that a little bit. When we do CMAs, it's
the same thing.
It's the same
It's the
thing.
same
We
thing.
do a bunch of.
Yeah, but your CMA is not, it doesn't.
It's not permanent like the appraisal.
Yeah, but it starts the ball. And I disagree with that. It starts the process, right? So Ray did that. Ray did his CMA. He did his analysis.
Right.
He went back to his seller, and his seller.
But your CMA
But the
doesn't determine
difference
financing.
is, the difference is,
It starts there that way. You've got to set the price,
That's a fair point.
right? You got to
Yeah.
set the price,
That's
right?
a fair point.
It starts that way,
so
right?
if you have an agent that does a poor CMA, how does that affect everyone else?
Means the property's going to be long in the tooth. The DOD is going to be way longer.
Yeah, totally.
DOM.
Oh, from a short standpoint, not an overage.
Oh, from a short standpoint, if it's listed too
Oh,
high.
you're saying if I price it under
If your
under-
CMA is
Yeah.
$200,000 below,
So I screwed my CMA up, is what you're telling me.
that doesn't affect things in the process the way a $200,000 short appraisal does.
Well-
But he's saying the
But-
CMA if it's high, if it checks in
No,
high.
but you're going to know that the first 2 weeks of the first week of it being on
The
market when
weekend,
the phone doesn't ring.
yeah, right.
Well, I'm just saying.
And the correction for that is we go in.
price
and
cut.
Yeah, but then let's face it. Then the property could be. Well, what's wrong with it?
It gets
Why do
scarlet lettered
it
in
gets
this market,
scarlet lettered.
with the price cut.
All these things impact one another without a doubt. The point I'm just trying to make is that much like the CMAs are not appraisals, but basically it's the same thing.
I agree. That's
Right.
why the first advice I give a seller when they're talking about buying is, hey, let's get a CMA done so we've got a realistic idea of what numbers to talk about for the money that we're going to take from this transaction into the next transaction.
So I talk about it on the show all the time. The reason I do the show and do all
Keeps
this,
you sharp.
it keeps me attuned on that end of it. But yeah, so again, we got a couple of rules. We don't point fingers and all this kind of great stuff. So and that's the
follow
thing.
that rule.
We follow that rule and all that, and that stuff. But the only point I'm trying to make is that we do the same thing and we get it wrong. But if I get it wrong, it does impact the market. It impacts the market overall, right? It impacts my client overall. If I'm not professional enough to.
I would say your CMA, your initial pricing out of the gate, is an easier pricing than the appraisal and what Woody is doing.
But we have to match it, right? So I kind of disagree with that, right? Because as I said before, some of the ones that we've been doing, we've been hitting. If we're off by a few thousand.
But you can make a mistake.
Don't do that.
I know. I'm not saying you do. I'm saying
Well, let me
that
rephrase that. Mrs. Smith doesn't do that. But yeah, you could.
Yoda never makes mistakes.
No, absolutely.
We love Yoda.
Absolutely not. But yes, I can make mistakes. Probably made 24 of them during the show, right? So everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does whatever it is on that end of it. But to me, this is all part of this big process, right? If we don't get it right, then the appraisal's right. Scott can't help because we've got we started the ball rolling wrong, and then we've got to go ahead and get it fixed. If I've missed the CMA, I'll raise my hand up and say, I missed the CMA, I'm sorry. But I have to tell you, we don't miss CMAs because we do our homework and we know where we're at.
And Woody is probably also very accurate in his, but my point is not to people who do good work.
Yeah, so So
and neither is Ray's.
Well,
to Scott's point, the market has spoke. It's back on the market. 2 pending comps in the neighborhood since were in excess of the appraised value of his deal, and multiple offers at, near, or above the list price. Only the appraiser disagreed.
Yeah, and it happens, right? So what's the flip side to this? The flip side to this is like 2005, 2006 with these cups that we have on this table.
Everybody got financing.
Everybody got financing.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be, I don't even want to say winners or losers, but there's just going to be some hiccups through the system. Each side of it always has it. Trust me, as one who lived through it, I'd rather have this discussion and how we can help our clients.
And this goes back to my statement, look, if you're going to play the game, you got to play inside the rules. And that's, and sometimes the rules suck. And that's for whether you're playing golf or you're, whatever you're doing, sometimes, the way it isn't the way it should be.
Well, rules are rules, and to say that I stretch them from time to time.
Yes, I know. It's 3 people here that stretch the rules on this show right now. Close where this question. Where do you think we're heading in June and July? Will we see the traditional summertime slow with people out of town in Central Virginia?
I think we're kind of getting there. Like, kids are out of school. We're starting to see a little slump there. Like, vacations are starting on top of all the market conditions. So I think it's not an unexpected time that we're seeing some of the things we're seeing, especially with the external forces that are being applied at the moment.
So I'm going to take the contrary opinion. I don't think we're going to see a slowdown at all. It's just going to be different, right? We've had this discussion. We've kind of dropped the term inventory from our conversation, right? At least we're trying. We're trying anyway. Doesn't seem to be working, but we're trying. I've been trying to pivot away from.
You're doing a good job, Keith.
I know that. Not really, but we'll get a thesaurus out and figure out what's a different word for inventory. But the fact of all that's happening is the buyer pool is just leveling off a little bit. The inventory is not rocketing up to go ahead and do this. It's just that the buyers are going to buy and sellers are going to sell. The volume of the transactions will kind of balance itself out a little bit on that end of it. But I don't see the traditional, hey, we're going to stop looking at houses in July. We have appointments for people wanting to look and put homes on the market for July and August. So,
do you have some active listings right now? Do they just go pending?
We got one coming soon in Belvedere that is going to go on the market, I think, on Friday.
Judah would know that answer right there.
I don't know if it just happened yesterday, so I'm not so sure Judah got the feedback on it. But yeah, so the short answer is in today's environment, listings are good. We're light on listings on that end of it. We're heavy on buyers. It's just, I think before we wrap up, are you finding the buyers right now, particularly the first-time home buyers, their psychology is a little bit different now? Okay, I missed one, I missed two.
It depends. I think I've still got people who haven't made or haven't gotten on board with, look, this is what you might have to do to win. So sometimes it still takes going out the first time. It may take losing something before they're like, you guys are serious. and they go out and price points dependent as well. If we're talking that sub 350, that's what I mean. It's either, look, hey, you're all in on what we're describing because here's why we're explaining it to you as far as what actions to take to win, or you may not. You may have to lose and then go, oh, all right. So
it's all about motivation.
It's about motivation
and where they are.
And how we all learn differently.
So we have buyers in that $500,000 to $1 million price point that has cash actually. And, we would send them some stuff coming in and they would say, well, how much over do you think this is going to bid? And I said, well, I think it's probably going to go here because I think I did my CMA, go back to CMAs on that end of it. I think they priced it a little low on that end of it. I think you're probably going to be 10,000 over. And they just won't look. So no, I don't want to play the game. Right? I don't want to go over a certain dollar amount. Again, these are cash buyers, right? So they're in somewhat of a different position on that.
Keith Smith, Scott Morris, you guys were on point today.
Thank you.
I missed the three of us on the show.
Yeah.
First time, I think 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
No, it's much longer than that.
The three of us together?
Just the three of us. I'll have to go back to Keith,
Real Talk with Keith Smith.
KeithSmith.com and go back a bit. I think it's been much longer than a month.
It's nice.
The three of us. I like this Batman, Robin, and what's
Spider-Man?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite superhero?
My favorite superhero?
What's that guy?
October, he's got to wear the costume.
So what's this guy?
Halloween.
Then I'm going to put more thought into it.
You look like
to be continued.
You look like this. What's the guy that was a wrestler turned? He does movies now. He did some.
John Cena.
Yes.
Saying he looks like The Rock?
No. He's saying I look like
John Cena. Cena's good. Cena's good.
What's the he just did?
Oh, John Cena he's got. Hey, Joe, what's the name of the show?
It was Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
That's it.
Okay. I'll do Peacemaker for Halloween. Absolutely.
He's hilarious in that.
I'm sorry?
John Cena's hilarious.
I think that's on HBO.
I actually brought this up a couple.
Yeah, you said watch the show. I do what Scott says.
Here we go.
So he's going to be John Cena in Peacemaker for Halloween on Real Talk.
Absolutely.
Are there tights involved with that costume?
Oh yeah. We're going to make tights involved in it.
Judas,
Not as bad as it could be.
Or something.
He does have a helmet. He's got a
red
goofy helmet.
Keith Smith is Batman. I'm Robin. He's Alfred. And this is Real Talk with Keith Smith on a Wednesday, presented by Ross Mortgage. Today's show was dynamite.
I want to give a special shout out to Woody for chiming in.
We love you, Woody Fisher.
This was a hard conversation to have without the man at the chair. So.
And if you see Barry Morris walking around
Fluvanna, yeah.
When you see Barry Morris around Fluvanna, wish the man a happy birthday. He's 73 years young.
73 years young.
Happy birthday, Dad.
For Scott, Keith, Judah, and Liza, my name is Jerry, and this is Real Talk, presented by Ross Mortgage, guys, on the I Love CVille Network. All the shows are archived at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com, and the I Love CVille show is up in 55 minutes. Take care. Nicely done, Scott.